hear me playing, Lane?
I didn't think it polite to listen, sir.
Well, I'm sorry for your sake. I don't play accurately. Anyone can play accurately. I play with great expression. When it comes to piano, sentiment is my forte. I save science for life.
Yes, sir.
Speaking of science for life, have you got the cucumber sandwiches that I requested for Aunt Augusta?
Yes, sir.
Lane, I noticed the other night, when Lord Shoreman and Mr. Worthing were dining with me, that in your book, that 8 bottles of champagne were recorded as having been consumed.
Yes, sir. 8 bottles. And a pint.
Lane, I wonder how in a bachelor's establishment that invariably the servants, well, they drink the champagne. How is that? I ask merely for information.
I attribute it to the quality of the wine, sir. I've often observed in married households that the champagne is rarely of a first-rate brand.
Oh, goodness, is marriage that dreadful and affair?
Oh, no, but I believe it is a pleasant state, sir. I believe it is a pleasant state, yes. Although I've had little experience myself, I've only been married but once, and that was a consequence of an unfortunate misunderstanding between myself, between myself and a young lady.
Elaine, I don't really think I'm much interested in your family life.
No, sir. It is not a very interesting subject, and I never think of it myself.
Well, that is natural. That'll be all, Lane. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You know, Lane's views on marriage, they're rather laxed. I have noticed that the lower orders, if they are not a good example for us, then what is their use? It seems to me they are a class that has no sense of moral integrity.
Mr. Earnest Worthing.
Ernest! My good man. And how are you today? What brings you to town?
Oh, pleasure. Pleasure. What else should bring one anywhere? Eating as usual, I see, Algy.
I believe it is customary in good society to take some refreshment around 5 o'clock, is it not? Where have you been since last Thursday?
Oh, in the country.
In the country? What do you do in the country?
When one is in town, one amuses oneself. When one is in the country, well, one amuses other people. It is excessively boring.
And who is it that you amuse?
Oh, neighbors. Neighbors.
Neighbors? Got nice neighbors in your part of Shropshire, do you?
Perfectly horrid. I never speak to one of them.
How you must amuse them. Oh, Shropshire, that is your county, is it not?
Shropshire? Yes, of course. Hello, why all these cups? Why cucumber sandwiches? Why such reckless extravagance in one so young? Who is coming to tea, Algy?
Oh, merely Aunt Augusta and Gwendolyn.
How perfectly delightful.
My dear boy, I'm sorry, but Aunt Augusta will not approve of you being present.
May I ask why?
Why, it's simply the way that you flirt with Gwendolyn. It's disgraceful. It's almost as bad as the way Gwendolyn flirts with you.
But I'm in love with Gwendolyn. I have come to town expressly to propose to her.
I thought you said that you came to town for pleasure. I consider that business.
How utterly unromantic you are, Algy.
There's nothing romantic about proposing. I mean, to be in love. Now that's romantic. But there is absolutely nothing romantic about an absolute proposal. Well, one may ask, and one might be accepted, and I believe one usually is. Well, then the excitement is all gone. The essence of romance is uncertainty. If I ever get married, I shall try to forget the fact.
I have no doubt about that, Algy. The divorce courts were designed specially for people with such curiously constituted memories.
There's no use speculating on that. Divorces are made in heaven. Please do not touch the cucumber sandwiches. They are for Aunt Augusta.
But you have been eating them the whole time.
Well, that's a perfectly different matter. They are for Aunt Augusta, and she is my aunt. Here, have bread and butter. The bread and butter is for Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn is absolutely devoted to bread and butter.
Yes, but very good bread and butter.
Oh, my dear boy, you needn't eat it as if you were going to eat it all. You know, you act as if you were already married to Gwendolyn. You are not married to Gwendolyn, and I don't think you ever will be.
What on earth makes you say that?
First, women do not marry the men that they flirt with. Women don't think it right.
That is nonsense.
No, it is not. It accounts for the extraordinary number of bachelors one sees around today. Second, I do not give my consent.
Your consent?
She is my first cousin, and I cannot allow you to marry Gwendolyn until you clear up the little matter of Cecily.
Cecily? What on earth do you mean, Algy, by Cecily? I don't know anyone by that name.
No. Lane, could you please bring me the cigarette case that Mr. Worthing left here when he dined here last?
Yes, sir.
You mean to say, Algy, that you have had my cigarette case this entire time? You might have said something. I've been writing frantic letters to Scotland Yard about the thing. I very nearly offered a large reward.
Well, I wish you would, old boy. I'm particularly hard up this week.
But there's no sense offering a reward now that the thing is found.
Well, I think that to be very mean of you, Ernest. But, you know, upon looking at the inscription, this isn't your thing at all.
Of course it's mine. You've seen me with it 100 times. And besides, it's very ungentlemanly to read a private cigarette case.
It's insane to have a hard and fast rule about what one should read and what one shouldn't read. Half of modern culture is based on what one shouldn't read.
I am well aware of the fact I don't propose to discuss modern culture. It isn't the sort of thing one should talk about in private. I simply want my cigarette case.
Ah, but this is not your cigarette case at all. This was a gift from someone of the name of Cecily. And you have already said you don't know anyone by that name.
But if you must know, Cecily happens to be my aunt.
Your aunt.
Yes, a charming old lady she is too. Lives at Tunbridge Wells. Now, give it back, Algy.
Well, why, if she is your aunt, and she lives at Tunbridge Wells, would she call herself Little? From Little Cecily with fondest love.
What on earth is there in that, old boy? Some aunts are tall, some aunts are not tall. That is a matter an aunt should decide for herself, certainly. Besides, you seem to think that every aunt is exactly like yours. That is absurd. Now, for heaven's sake, give it back to me.
But why does your aunt call you her uncle? From Little Cecily with fondest love to dear Uncle Jack. Now, I have no objection, of course, to your aunt being small. Some aunts are. However, why an aunt, no matter what her size, would call her nephew her uncle? I can't quite make it out. And besides, it says here, from Little Cecily with fondest love, Uncle Jack. Your name's not Jack at all, it's Ernest.
It isn't Ernest, it is Jack.
You have always told me that your name is Ernest. I introduce you to everyone as Ernest. You answer to the name of Ernest. You look very earnest. You're the most earnest-looking person I've ever met in my life. For you to say that you are not Ernest is absolutely absurd. Here, I have one of your cards. Look. Mr. Ernest Worthing, B4 the Albany. I shall keep that as proof that your name is Ernest. Should you try to deny it to me, or to Gwendolyn, or to anyone else?
It is Ernest in town. It's Jack in the country, and the cigarette case was given to me in the country.
Yes, but that does not account for why your aunt would call you her uncle. Come, boy, you better have it out. And might I mention that I have always suspected you of being a Bunburyist. A secret and confirmed Bunburyist, and now I'm sure of it.
What on earth do you mean by a Bunburyist?
I shall reveal the meaning of that expression when you tell me why you are Ernest in town and Jack in the country.
Algy, you talk exactly as if you were a dentist. Is it very vulgar to talk like a dentist when one is not a dentist? It creates such a false impression.
That's exactly what dentists do. Now please, tell me why you are Ernest in town and Jack in the country.
Produce my cigarette case first, if you please.
Here it is. Now produce my explanation, and please, make it improbable.
There's nothing improbable about my explanation at all. It's quite ordinary. Old Mr. Thomas Cardew, who adopted me when I was a little boy, left me in his will the guardian to his granddaughter, Miss Cecily Cardew. Cecily, who calls me her uncle from motives of respect which you could not possibly appreciate, lives at my place in the country under the care of her esteemed governess, Miss Prism.
Now, what part of the country is that, old boy?
That is nothing to you. You are not going to be invited. I may tell you candidly that the place is not in Shropshire.
Well, I could have figured that out. I've Bunburied all over Shropshire on 2 separate occasions. Now, please, tell me why you are Ernest in town and Jack in the country.
I don't know whether you will fully understand my real motives, Algy. You are hardly serious enough. But when one is placed in the position of a guardian, one must adopt a very high moral tone on all subjects. That's one's duty to do so. And as a high moral tone can hardly be said to conduce much to one's health or one's happiness, so that I may come up to town whenever I like, I have invented a brother by the name of Earnest, who lives at the Albany and gets into the most dreadful scrapes. That is the truth, Algy, pure and simple.
Well, the truth is rarely pure, and it's never simple. Otherwise, life would be rather tedious, and, well, modern literature, well, that would be an impossibility.
It would not be at all a bad thing.
Literary criticism is not your forte. So please, leave it to the folks that have not been to university. They do very well in daily papers. What you are is a Bunburyist. You are a secret and confirmed Bunburyist, and now I have proved it.
But what on earth is a Bunburyist?
You have invented a brother, a rather useful brother, that allows you to come to town whenever you like. I have invented an invaluable invalid named Bunbury, in order that I may go to the country whenever I choose. Bunbury is perfectly invaluable. For instance, I would not be able to dine with you this evening at Willis's if it weren't for Bunbury's horrible health. After all, I've been engaged to Aunt Augusta to dine for more than a week now.
But I have not asked you to dine with me anywhere tonight.
Oh, I know. You are horrible at sending out invitations. People get so annoyed when they don't get invitations.
I really feel you should dine with your Aunt Augusta, Algy.
Oh, I have no intention of dining at Aunt Augusta's. First of all, I dined there on Monday, and once a week is enough to dine with one's own relations. Oh. When I go there, I am treated as family, and I'm set next to either 2 women or no women at all. And third, I know perfectly well who she will set me next to at dinner this evening. She will set me next to Mary Farquhar, who flirts with her husband over the dinner table. There's nothing pleasant about that. Rather indecent. You know, this thing is on the uprise. These women that flirt with their husband in London. It's dreadful. Besides, now that I know you to be a Bunburyist, I'd like to talk to you about Bunburying. I just want to tell you the rules.
But I am not a Bunburyist. If Gwendolen accepts me, I shall kill my brother. In fact, I think I shall kill him in any case. Cecily is a bit too interested in him. So I'm going to get rid of Ernest, and I strongly suggest you do the same with Mr. your friend with that absurd name.
Nothing could induce me to part with Bunbury. No married man should. He married without knowing Bunbury. He has a rather tedious time of it.
That is nonsense. If I marry a charming girl like Gwendolyn, and she is the only girl I ever saw who I would marry, I won't want to know Bunbury.
And your wife will. You don't seem to understand. In marriage, 3 is company. 2 is no company at all.
That, my friend, is the theory the corrupt French drama has been propounding these past 50 years.
And that the happy English home has proven in half the time.
Do not try to be cynical. It is perfectly easy to be cynical.
It's not perfectly easy to be anything these days. There's all this ghastly competition about. Oh, that must be Aunt Augusta. No one rings the bell in that Wagnerian manner except for relations or creditors. Now, my boy, listen. If I do you the favor and take Aunt Augusta in the other room for 10 minutes, then you might have the opportunity to propose. May I dine with you at Willis's tonight?
Well, I suppose so, if you want.
But you must be serious about it. I can't stand people who aren't serious about meals. Oh, it's very shallow.
Lady Bracknell and Miss Fairfax.
Oh, good afternoon, dear Algernon. I hope you're behaving very well.
Oh, I do feel very well, Aunt Augusta.
Well, that's not quite the same thing. In fact, the two things rarely go together.
You are smart, aren't you?
Oh, I'm always smart. Am I not, Mr. Worthing?
You are quite perfect, Miss Fairfax.
Oh, I hope I am not that. It will leave no room for development, and I intend to develop in many directions.
I'm sorry if we're a bit late, Algernon. I was obliged to call on dear Lady Harbury. I hadn't been to see her since her poor husband's death. I never saw a woman so altered. She looks quite 20 years younger. And now I'll have some tea and some of those nice cucumber sandwiches you promised me.
Yes.
Gwendolyn, won't you come sit here?
Thanks, Mother, but I'm quite comfortable where I am.
Lane! Lane! Could you come in here, please?
Yes, sir.
Lane, where are the cucumber sandwiches that I ordered specifically for Aunt Augusta?
There were no cucumbers in the market this morning, sir. I went down twice.
Oh, no cucumbers in the market. Not even for ready money.
No, sir. Not even for ready money.
Oh. That'll be all, Lane. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Aunt Augusta, I am sorry, but there were no cucumbers in the market, not even for ready money.
It really makes no difference, Algernon. I had some crumpets with Lady Harbury, who seems to me to be living entirely for pleasure these days.
Oh, I do hear that her hair has turned quite gold with grief.
It certainly has changed its color. For what cause I, of course, cannot say.
Here you go.
Oh, thank you, Algernon. And now I've quite a treat for you this evening.
Oh, really?
I'm going to send you down next to Mary Farquhar.
Oh.
She is such a nice woman and so attentive to her husband. It's delightful to watch them.
Oh, yes. Unfortunately, Aunt Augusta, I will not be able to have the pleasure to dine with you this evening.
I hope not, Algernon. It would put my table completely out. Your uncle would have to dine upstairs. Fortunately, he is accustomed to that.
Oh, I know it is a bore, and it's quite a disappointment, but I have received a telegram from my good friend Bunbury. It seems he's ill. They think I should be with him.
Oh, it is very strange. This Mr. Bunbury seems to suffer from curiously bad health.
Oh, yes. Bunbury, he is a horrible invalid.
Well, I must say, I think it is high time this Mr. Bunbury made up his mind whether he was going to live or to die. This shilly-shally with the subject is absurd. Nor do I in any way condone the modern sympathy for invalids. I consider it morbid. Illness of any kind should not be encouraged in others. Health is the primary duty of life. I'm always telling that to your poor uncle, not that he seems to take much notice, at least as far as improvement in his ailment goes. Well, I should be much obliged, Algernon, if you would ask this Mr. Bunbury for me to kindly not have a relapse on Saturday, for I rely on you to rearrange my music for me.
Oh.
It is my last reception, and one wants something that will encourage conversation, particularly at the end of the season, when practically everything that anyone had to say has already been said, which in most cases is not much.
Oh, yeah. Yes, Aunt Augusta. You know, I shall talk to Bunbury. That's if he's conscious. However, I can guarantee that he will be better by Saturday. Now, the music, now that's another matter altogether. For if one plays good music, well, no one listens. And if one plays bad music, then no one talks. Well, perhaps you should look at the program that I've drawn up for you in the other room.
Thank you, Algernon. That's very thoughtful of you.
Thank you. Right this way.
I'm sure the program will be delightful, with a few expurgations. French songs I cannot possibly allow. People always seem to find them inappropriate and either look shocked, which is vulgar, or laugh, which is worse. Now, German sounds a thoroughly respectable language, and indeed, I believe it is so. Gwendolyn, you will accompany me.
Yes, Mother.
Right this way.
Charming day it has been, Miss Fairfax.
Pray don't talk to me about the weather, Mr. Worthing. For whenever anyone talks to me about the weather, I always feel they mean something else. It makes me so nervous.
I do mean something else.
Oh, I thought so. In fact, I'm never wrong.
And I should like to take advantage of Lady Bracknell's temporary absence from the room.
Oh, I would certainly advise you to do so. Mother has a way of suddenly coming back into a room that I've often had to speak to her about.
Miss Fairfax, I must tell you that from the first time I met you, I have admired you more than any girl I've ever met since I met you.
Oh, Mr. Worthing, I'm quite well aware of the fact. For me, I've always wished that you had been a little bit more demonstrative when we were out in public. Even before I met you, I was far from indifferent to you. We live, as I hope you know, Mr. Worthing, in an age of ideals. The fact is often mentioned in the most expensive monthly magazines. It's reached the provincial pulpit, so I'm told. My ideals has always been to love someone of the name Earnest. From the moment Algernon told me that he had a friend named Earnest, I knew I was destined to love you.
You really love me, Gwendolyn?
Passionately.
Oh, my darling, you don't know how happy you have made me.
My own Earnest.
Oh, but you don't mean to say that you couldn't love me if my name wasn't Ernest.
But your name is Earnest.
Yeah, of course, yes, it is. Suppose it was, well, something else. You mean to say that you couldn't love me then?
That is clearly a metaphysical speculation. And just like most metaphysical speculations, there is very little reference to the real-life facts as we know them.
Frankly, Gwendolyn, I don't much care about the name of Ernest. I don't think it suits me at all.
Oh, it suits you perfectly, darling. It has music. It provides vibrations. Oh!
But, I really feel that there are much nicer names. I think Jack, for instance, is a very nice name.
Jack? Oh, no. There is very little music in the name Jack, if any at all. Oh, it does not thrill. It has no vibrations. Oh, Jack is notorious domesticity for the name John. And I pity any woman who's married to a man named John. I feel she would never have the entrancing pleasures of a single moment's solitude. Oh, the only really safe name is Earnest.
Gwendolyn, I must get christened at once. I mean, we must be married at once.
Married, Mr. Worthing?
Of course, I love you, and you led me to believe that you were not altogether indifferent to me.
Oh, I adore you, Mr. Worthing, but you haven't proposed yet. Nothing has been said about marriage. The subject hasn't even been touched on.
But may I propose to you now?
Oh, I would certainly advise you to do so. And to prevent you any disappointment, Mr. Worthing, I feel it necessary to tell you that I am fully prepared to accept you.
Oh, Gwendolyn.
Yes, darling, what have you got to say?
But you know what I have to say.
But you don't say it.
Gwendolyn, will you marry me?
Of course, darling.
Oh, my dear.
How long have you been about it? You have no practice in proposing.
Do men practice proposing?
Oh, they often practice proposing. I know my brother William does. All my girlfriends tell me so. Oh, Ernest, you have such blue eyes. I hope you will always look at me just like that, especially when other people are present.
Mr. Worthing! Rise, sir, from this semi-recumbent posture. It's most indecorous.
Mother, I must beg you to retire. This is no place for you. Mr. Worthing was not quite finished yet.
Finished what, may I ask?
I am engaged to Mr. Worthing.
Pardon me, you are not engaged to anyone. Should you become engaged to someone, I or your father, should his health permit him, will advise you of the fact. An engagement should come upon a young girl as a surprise, pleasant or unpleasant as the case may be. It is hardly a matter she should be able to consider for herself. And now, I have a few questions for you, Mr. Worthing. And while I am making my inquiries, you, Gwendolyn, will wait for me below in the carriage.
Mother!
In the carriage, Gwendolyn! Gwendolyn! The carriage!
Yes, Mother.
You may take a seat, Mr. Worthing.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell, but I prefer to stand.
I feel obliged to tell you that you are not down on my list of eligible young men. Indeed, I have the same list as the dear Duchess of Bolton. In fact, we walk together. However, I am perfectly willing to enter your name should your answers be what a perfectly affectionate mother requires. Now, Mr. Worthing, no smoke.
Yes, I must admit that I do smoke.
Oh, I am glad to hear it. A man should always have an occupation of some kind. Indeed, there are far too many idle men in London as it is. How old are you?
Well, I'm 29.
Oh, a very good age to be married at. Now, Mr. Worthing, I have always been of the opinion that a man who desires to marry should either know everything or nothing. Which do you know?
Well, I know nothing, Lady Bracknell.
Oh, I am glad to hear it. I do not approve of anything that tampers with the natural ignorance. Ignorance is like a delicate exotic fruit. Touch it and the bloom is gone. Our whole theory of modern education is radically unsound. Indeed, in London, education seems to produce no effect whatsoever. If it did, it would prove a serious danger to the upper classes and probably lead to acts of violence in Grosvenor Square. Now, what is your income?
Between 7,000 and 8,000 a year.
In land or in investments?
In investments, chiefly.
That is satisfactory. What between the duties expected of one during one's lifetime and the duties exacted of one after one's death, then hardly ceases to be either a profit or a pleasure. It gives one position and prevents one from keeping it up. And that's all that can be said about land.
Well, I do own a country house with some land attached, of course, about 1,500 acres, I think, but I don't rely on that for my real income. I think that the poachers are really the only people who make anything off it.
A country house? How many bedrooms? Oh, that point can be cleared up later. You do have a townhouse, I hope. A girl of such simple and spoiled nature such as Gwendolyn could hardly be expected to reside in the country.
Of course, yes, I own a house in Belgrave Square, but it's let to Lady Bloxham by the year. But I can get it back whenever I wish, at 6 months' notice.
Lady Bloxham? I don't know her.
She goes about very little. She's well advanced in years.
Oh, nowadays that's no guarantee of respectability of character. What number in Belgrave Square?
149.
Ah, the unfashionable side. I thought there was something. However, that can easily be altered.
The fashion, Lady Bracknell, or the side.
Both, if necessary, I presume. What are your politics?
Well, to be honest, I don't really have any. I'm a liberal unionist.
Oh, they count as Tories. They dine with us sometimes, or come in the evening at any rate. Now, on to minor matters. Are your parents living?
I regret to say, Lady Bracknell, that I have lost both of my parents.
Oh, to lose one parent may be seen as misfortune. To lose both looks like carelessness. Who was your father? He was obviously a man of some wealth. Was he born in what the radical papers refer to as the purple of commerce? Or did he rise from the ranks of the aristocracy?
I'm afraid I really don't know, Lady Bracknell. I said that I had lost my parents, but it would be nearer the truth to say they lost me. I don't really know who I am by birth. I was found.
Found?
Yes, the late Mr. Thomas Cardew, an old gentleman of a kind and generous disposition, found me and gave me the name of Worthing because, well, he had a ticket to Worthing in his pocket. It's a place near Sussex, a seaside resort.
And where did this charitable gentleman with the first-class ticket to the seaside resort find you?
Oh, in a handbag.
A handbag?
Yes, it was a rather large black leather handbag with handles on it. It's quite an ordinary handbag, you see.
In what locality did this Mr. James or Thomas Cardew find this ordinary handbag?
In the cloakroom at Victoria Station. It was given to him in mistake for his...
The cloakroom? At Victoria Station?
Yes, the Brighton line.
Oh, the line is immaterial. Mr. Worthing, I must confess I am somewhat bewildered by what you have just told me. To be born, or at any rate bred, in a handbag, whether it has handles or not, seems to me to go against the common decencies of ordinary family life that reminds one of the worst excesses of the French Revolution. And I presume you know what that unfortunate movement led to. As for the locality in which the handbag was found, a cloakroom at a railway station could serve to conceal a social indiscretion, and indeed probably has been used for that purpose before now. But it can hardly be regarded as an assured basis for a recognized position in good society.
May I ask you then what you would suggest I do? I need hardly say I would do whatever I can to ensure Gwendolyn's happiness.
Well, I would advise you to acquire some relations as soon as possible, and to produce, at any rate, one parent of either sex before the season is quite over.
how you could expect me to do that. I have a handbag. I could produce it any moment. It's in the dressing room at home. I really feel that should be good enough for you, Lady Bracknell.
Me, sir? And what has that to do with me? You could hardly imagine that I and Lord Bracknell would ever dream of allowing our only daughter, a girl brought up with the utmost care, to marry into a cloakroom and form an alliance with a parcel. Good day, Mr. Worthing.
Good day. Stop playing that ghastly tune! How idiotic you are, Algy!
Didn't it go off all right, old boy? You don't mean to say that Gwendolyn refused you? Oh, she's always refusing everyone. It's rather ill-natured of her, I think.
Oh, Gwendolyn is as right as a trivet. Her mother, on the other hand, is perfectly unbearable. I never met such a gorgon. I don't know what a gorgon really is like, but Lady Bracknell has to be one. At any rate, she's a monster without being a myth, which isn't fair. I'm sorry, Algy. I shouldn't talk about your aunt in this way before you.
My boy, I love hearing my relations abused. It's the only thing that makes me put up with them at all. Relations are simply a tedious pack of people that haven't the remotest knowledge about how to live, nor the smallest instinct about when to die.
This is nonsense.
No, it isn't.
I'm not going to argue with you about it, Algy. You always want to argue about things.
That's what things were meant for.
If I really thought that, I would shoot myself. Now, Algy, tell me, do you think there's any chance in about, 150 years of Gwendolyn becoming just like her mother?
My dear boy, every woman becomes like her mother. That is the tragedy. No man does. And that is his tragedy.
Is that clever, Algy?
No, it's perfectly phrased, as any good observation in society should be.
I am sick to death of cleverness. Everybody's clever nowadays. You can't go anywhere without meeting clever people. It's become a positive public nuisance. I wish to goodness we had a few fools left in this world.
Oh, we have.
I should very much like to meet them. What do they talk about?
Who, the fools?
Of course.
Well, they talk about the clever people.
What fools?
My boy, did you get to talk to Gwendolyn about your being Ernest in town and Jack in the country?
My dear fellow, that truth is not the sort of thing one talks about with a nice, refined girl like Gwendolyn. What extraordinary ideas you have about the way to behave to a woman.
The only way to behave to a woman is to make love to her if she is pretty, and to someone else if she is plain.
That is nonsense, Algy.
Oh, it isn't. But what about your brother? What about the profligate Earnest?
By the end of the week, I shall have got rid of him. I shall say he died suddenly of apoplexy or something like that. People die suddenly of apoplexy all the time, do they not?
Oh, yes, but that sort of thing is hereditary. It runs in families. You'd be better off to say it was a great chill.
You're sure a severe chill is not hereditary or anything of that sort?
Well, of course it isn't.
Very well. My poor brother Ernest is carried off suddenly in Paris by severe chill. That gets rid of him.
But won't your ward, Cecily Cardew, take it very hard? Your brother's death? You said she was very fond of him.
Cecily is not a silly romantic girl, I am happy to say. She has a capital appetite. She goes on long walks and she pays no attention at all to her lessons.
I should like to meet this Cecily.
I will take very good care that you never do. She is excessively pretty, and only just 18.
Well, have you told Gwendolyn that you have an excessively pretty ward who's only just 18?
This is not the sort of thing one just blurts out to people, Algy. I'm sure that Cecily and Gwendolyn will be great friends. Why, I'll bet you whatever you like that within half an hour of them meeting, we will call each other sister.
My boy. Women only call each other that after they've called each other a number of other things first. Now, listen, if we're going to get a good table at Willis's, we must go and get dressed. It's nearly 7.
It is always nearly 7.
Yes, but I am hungry.
I never knew you when you worked.
Well, what shall we do after dinner? Shall we go to the theater?
No, I loathe listening.
Well, then shall we stop by the club?
No, I hate talking.
Well, then shall we trot round the Empire at 10?
No, I can't bear to look at things. It's so silly.
Then what shall we do?
Nothing.
Nothing? That's an awful lot of hard work to do nothing. I suppose I don't mind if there's no real object involved in it.
Miss Fairfax.
Oh. Gwendolyn, my word.
Oh, Algy, kindly turn your back. I have something very particular to say to Mr. Worthing.
Oh, Gwendolyn, I don't think that I can allow this to happen here.
Algy, you have adopted a strictly immoral attitude towards life. You are not quite old enough to do that.
My darling.
Oh, Mr. Worthing, I feel we may never be married. From the expression on Mother's face, I feel we never shall. Few parents nowadays pay any regards to what their children have to say, and the old-fashioned respect for the young is fast dying out. Oh, Ernest, while Mother may prevent us from becoming man and wife, and I may marry someone else, and marry often, there is nothing she can do to alter my eternal devotion to you.
My own one.
The story of your romantic origin is told to be my mother, with unpleasing comments, has stirred the deeper fibers of my being. Your Christian name has an irresistible fascination, and the simplicity of your character is exquisitely incomprehensible to me. Your town address at the Albany I have. What is your address in the country?
It's the Manor House at Woolton, in Hertfordshire.
Oh, it has good postal service, I suppose. It may take something really desperate. Careful consideration. Oh, I will write to you daily.
Oh, my darling.
How long will you remain in town?
Until Monday.
Oh, good. Algy, you may turn around.
Oh, I've quite already turned around.
And you may ring the bell.
You will let me see you out.
Certainly.
Elaine, I shall see Miss Fairfax to her carriage.
Of course. Your bill, sir.
Oh. Thank you, Lane. Ooh. A glass of sherry, Lane.
Yes, sir.
You know, I think tomorrow is going to be a good day, Lane.
It never is, sir.
I'm going to go Bunburying tomorrow. I shouldn't be back till Monday morning. You can pack up all the suits, my smoking jacket, all the Bunbury suits.
Of course, sir.
You know, Lane, you are a perfect pessimist.
I do my best to give satisfaction, sir.
There is a sensible, intellectual girl. The only girl I ever saw who I cared anything about. What are you so amused about?
Nothing. I'm just a little anxious about Bunbury, that's all.
If you aren't careful, Algy, your friend Bunbury will get you into a serious scrape someday.
Oh, I love scrapes. They're the only thing that isn't serious.
You are talking nonsense again, Algy. You never talk anything but nonsense.
Nobody ever does.